Time being 7:09 p.m. on December 19th, I suppose we call this meeting of the Board of Ethics to order. And Ms. Leppy, would you call roll?
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Bellerive, Mr. Chair.
Present.
Ms. Mogadam?
Present.
Mr. Neighbors?
Here.
And Chair, can you confirm Ms. Guess is excused for this meeting?
That is correct. Ms. Guess is excused for this meeting.
All right, Chair, you have a quorum.
Outstanding. And the next item we have on this evening agenda is the approval of this evening's agenda, and the board would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve this evening's agenda.
I will second.
And I will assume no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 And with no opposition, this evening's agenda is approved. The next item we have on this evening's agenda is the approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, and that was the special meeting of November 21st, 2024, conveniently located on page 3 of our packets.
I move to approve the meeting notes.
I will second that motion.
And is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the November 21st meeting, please say aye.
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 And with no opposition, the minutes of our previous meeting are approved. Up next, we have our consent agenda this evening. We have items 5A or 5A1 A through G. And are there any items in this package that any members would like to take up individually?
None here.
I think for me, the only one that I had curiosity about, I didn't see anything, whether it was employee, board member, or elected official selected for, I think that's item 5A1F. Don't know if that was just an error in transmission here or that was just left blank.
I noticed the same thing, and I think Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that has prevented us in the past from approving, especially since they said they had no conflicts.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the board just approved them in the past if they clicked the box for no conflicts.
Understandable. Well,
we can fill that in too later. Like we can look it up and see where that what that appointment was for.
I see. Well, I think with that, the board would entertain a motion to approve the agenda or consent agenda as a block.
So moved.
Second.
And is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of approving this evening's consent agenda as a block say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And with no opposition, this evening's consent agenda is approved. Next item we have this evening is our unfinished business. And that is request for an advisory opinion 2024 TAC 03. And I believe it was our intent to continue discussion on this with drafts, and those were not able to be prepared. And we had considered tabling for next month. I believe the board would entertain a motion if that's members' intent.
Yeah, I could kind of explain because I was neglectful on that. I apologize. We just got behind on hearings and stuff for the administrative hearing office. But the motion last month was for me to draft up two versions, one, finding a violation, one finding not a violation. And then the board was going to, and I know I won't mention any names, or discuss it. We're not in a confidential setting yet or executive session, but was to have two different versions of the response drafted up and then kind of discuss it and pick which one we wanted to go with. I was only able to get one of those done, and I didn't think it would be fair to just present one, trying to sway the board's decision, just not completing both of them. So I think there does need to be more discussion about this before we come to an agreement or come to any sort of response.
Paul, I think you can hardly be faulted for not drafting 2 advisory opinions in less than a month for the same matter.
Well, I did finish the first one, but like I said, I mean, I didn't want to just present one version and then try to, because I'm not sure if it's correct. We'll see.
Understandable. Well, if it's the sense of the board would entertain a motion to table item 6A for our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Well, I mean,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, since we have time, I mean, it might be helpful to just kind of get a sense of where the board's at on that or discuss it more after. I mean, the new request, I think should be easy. Like we could probably knock that out in less than a couple minutes. And then, spend whatever time we have left or at least talk about the old response for a little bit tonight before
I think my concern with 6A was that, we will necessarily be taking this up whenever we have a new member on the board. And to the extent we're able, I would like to have them involved in the conversation, especially if they're not going to be able to recuse themselves from voting on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Chair, are you entertaining a motion to table then, or are we, what is your druthers?
I suppose my sense would be to entertain a motion to table this 6A for our next regularly scheduled meeting so we can have, our full body here for more of the discussions.
Paul, could we ask you for an opinion on that again?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to draft up the responses. I was just hoping to maybe get a little bit more sense of where the board is leaning towards for a decision, but I think it totally makes sense to have the full debate until we get the other member on board.
Okay.
The other thing that I was going to mention is the assembly. I don't know if anybody listened to the assembly meeting on Tuesday night, but the item related to the complaint is coming up for assembly action in the January meeting. So if there was going to be a finding that there was a violation, that would probably be helpful for the assembly to know before they take up the proposed ordinance on this item. And that's, I think, January 21st, I believe, is when that the debate was, or the action was continued to from the December meeting.
And when is our January meeting supposed to happen? I don't have that date in front of me.
We have it set as to be determined at this point.
So I think if the board was able to meet before that, like in the first couple of weeks of January, that would probably work. I mean, the other thing, I mean, it doesn't have to. It's not like you have to get a response before the assembly meeting. It would, it just might be relevant depending on what's decided.
Yeah, I think it would be important for us to get our opinion out there before the assembly takes it up. Just trying to look at the dates, and you said it's the 22nd they're meeting?
The
21st.
The 21st, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Tuesday. So I mean, if we did ours on the 16th or the 9th, we wouldn't even necessarily have to do a Thursday again. But I think in my opinion, I think we should get something out before the 21st.
And I do think the optics would be much better for having something out beforehand as well.
So then do we want to table the discussions with the intention of having our next meeting? I mean, we would need to have enough time to have the discussions and then allow Paul any time to make any edits or changes to whatever we decide based on the two drafts. But with that in mind, make sure we schedule the next meeting with enough time for that.
I think that does track.
Yeah, I
don't
think the
know.
the motion could just be to table the item until the next meeting, and then we could, Carissa will be sending out the emails and stuff too to see when everybody's available, and that can kind of check. That might change when we actually set the meeting for, but the intention would be to set it before January, at least in the week before January 21st at a minimum.
Okay, so then I would move to table the discussion until our next scheduled meeting.
Second?
And any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of moving item or of tabling item 6A to our next regular or to our next scheduled meeting, please say aye.
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 And with none opposed, the motion carries and this item is tabled to our next meeting. And the next item we have on our agenda this evening is new business. We have ethics complaint for violation at 2024 TAC 05. And I'm not seeing that we've had anyone else join the call this evening, correct?
Correct, Chair.
And I suppose from here, the board would entertain a motion to enter executive session or to move into executive session, correct?
So moved.
Second?
And all of those in favor of moving into executive sessions, please say aye.
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 And the motion carries.
Chair, it looks like we'll have to access the executive sessions link that you were sent because Rooms does not seem to want to allow everyone into it. So if you can cut out of this call and then join the executive sessions link, meet you
All
over
right.
there.
Appreciate it. See y'all on the other side.
Hang on.
Yeah.
That link that you sent out, are you with me,
Yes.
Carissa? Okay.
Yes.
Because can you send, I'm looking at the email that you sent to me, but when I clicked accept, the link disappeared. So.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, can you just send me the link? I'm on a Mac, and so I don't use Microsoft for my normal scheduling and so on, and I'm not sure where to find my link after I clicked accept on Outlook. So if you don't mind sending that along, it'd be helpful.
Your Gmail account?
Yeah.
Is that the right email? Okay,
Yep.
I'll just forward you that message again.
Okay.
And it's
Great.
the
Thank
bottom
you.
link. So here it comes.
All right. Thanks. Still don't have a link. Rats.
Looks like everyone's here. Chair, you are back in open session.
I see. I will probably do a much better job here if I unmute my microphone. And so returning to the open session here, I believe the board would entertain a motion to decline on 2024 TAC 05 and for Paul to draft a response to that effect.
So moved.
I will second.
And any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And with no opposition, the motion carries. And Paul is not present in the room.
Yeah, I just noticed he must have dropped off. He'll join in a moment.
I'm sure we can catch him back up and he's aware of what our intent was here anyhow. With that, the next item we have on our agenda this evening is member comments. Do we have any comments from members of the board?
I have none.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and offer some comments. I was recently made aware of some potentially explosive information that made me wonder about some of our prior cases that have been brought before us that I don't really want to rehash, but in thinking about what I do not believe that this has yet been vetted or been made public, but the bottom line is that I would just encourage my colleagues on this board. I won't be around on this board for much longer, but just encourage everybody to keep doing what you're doing and sticking to the rules, because my sense is that there could be some folks who come along who want to use cases to advance political or financial interests. And I think that potential is, I think, best avoided by just sticking to the rules and following the law and so on. But I didn't feel too good when I heard this, because it made me feel like that this body was being used, and didn't feel very good. But so that's it. But just to encourage everyone to keep doing what they're doing.
Appreciate that. And do we have any any audience this evening? I am seeing none for audience participation here. And the next item we have on our agenda this meeting is scheduling our next meeting. I believe our intent was that Carissa would reach out for scheduling, and our intent is to meet in those first couple of weeks of, or I guess first 3 weeks of January.
That was my understanding.
I
Excellent.
can get
And
a poll sent out, Chair.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And with that, I believe our last item on the agenda this evening is adjournment, and the board would entertain a motion.
So moved.
So I'll second.
And all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Aye. And the motion carries. We are adjourned for this evening.